Rail Up, the future mobility podcast with innovators and leaders of the ecosystem. Presented by Sebastian Sperker.
In today's episode, we will explore an innovative solution for parking empty railcars off-site. My guests are Pattison and Liès Ainouche, and together we will share the story behind this idea and how an economic downturn sparked a remarkable innovation leading to a new business within the rail ecosystem. So let's begin with this episode. Welcome to Rail Up. So Kyle and Liès, how would you describe yourself? Are you rather an innovator or a leader?
I am both. Absolutely. Innovation runs through our family veins. For over 70 years, Pattison Company has been about transforming industries by anticipating challenges before they become actually critical. We introduced nitrogen to agriculture in 1953. We established our Mississippi River Terminal in 1969. We are just doing business. We are reimagining what is possible. My leadership philosophy is simple. Innovation isn't about having all the answers. It's about constantly asking, how can we do this better? Each generation of our company has built upon the last, maintaining our core values while embracing new technologies. As I often say, innovation is about seeing possibilities where others see problems. It's about having the courage to try new approaches and the persistence to make them work.
That's great. Thank you very much. And Liès, how you describe yourself?
First of all, Sebastian, allow me to thank you for your invitation today to your podcast. Kyle and myself are greatly honored to be with you. So thank you very much for that. On my end, I'm definitely more of a leader. I'm methodical, strategic, and I have to admit, sometimes I'm more traditional. My wife, she often called me an old soul, and I think she's right. So my strengths does not reside in wild creativity, but more in operational excellence. Throughout my career, spanning in 3 continents, I work in Europe, France, where I was born, in Africa, and also in North America. And I work in different companies from military training to logistics and railroad. I've constantly focused on streamlining processes, building high-performing teams, and delivering tangible results. So on my end, opposition to Kyle, I'm more on the leadership side, where Kyle, I think, combined both.
Thank you both, and let's jump into our today's topic. In the rail freight industry, the parking of railcars is a crucial but often overlooked aspect of the operations. Freight cars are temporarily stored due to fluctuating demand, maintenance need, or delays in transport change. However, excessive parking can lead to high cost, reduced network capacity, and logistical challenges. And that's actually a global issue. And of course, AI-driven tracking solutions are available on the market, but there is also an innovative solution that physically increases the network capacity by parking empty wagons off-site, so outside the rail network. And this is the fresh approach of Pattison Company, and in today's digital world of bits and bytes, it is a simple yet elegant solution for efficient rail car parking. So let's talk about the idea, let's talk about the person behind it and the consultant helping to promote it. So Kyle, as a founder and owner of the company, can you give us a brief introduction to your business and of course its connection to rail?
As Liès said, thank you for the opportunity to explain about our company and the process here that we've been presenting to others. About Pattison. Pattison is a testament to the adaptability and strategic vision. We've transformed multiple times, shifting from agriculture to frac sand production 2007, and in frac sand producing 1 to 2.3 million tons annually across multiple states. In 2016, we strategically diversified to aggregates to buffer against market volatility of the frac sand. When in 2019 the downturn hit, we didn't just survive, we innovated. We created a unique railcar storage system and launched a railcar services business, turning challenges into opportunities. Again, in 2023, Pattison started repairing cars to lower our rail car cost and have recently been providing this service to others.
So actually what you're saying, you were faced with an economical crisis and you turned it into a new business opportunity, right?
Yeah, we were faced with an additional $1 million a year of cost, and we came up with a creative way to turn that cost into much less and then turn it into a business where we could offer that same value to other customers.
That sounds like a great story. And if you just visit your website, there is mentioned your team consists of innovators. So what innovators are you currently driving?
We relentlessly push boundaries. We've added innovative stands to our railcar process to minimize investment cost. We are always developing creative new ways to apply our railcar storage, such as being used in returning and repairing cars. In 22, we developed the stabilized row rock as another example, an incredible innovation that lasts 2 to 4 times longer than traditional materials, that being road rock. And what we're doing is adding clay from our frac sand operations to improve the plasticity of the rock so it lasts a lot longer. We're also exploring jetty stone solutions for the Mississippi River and Gulf markets, which is developing rocks that are larger than 2 or 3 feet in size to provide critical erosion protection. The larger rocks are harder to come by in other areas, and with the formation we have at Clayton, they're easy to produce.
Just for the audience, on the one hand, you have this innovative approach of this parking of empty rail cars. On the other hand, you're also serving the industry with, let's say, building materials. So basically, who are your customers on the one side, on the industry, and who are your customers for the off-site parking solution?
So the customers for the railcar storage is really anybody that handles rail cars that is paying demurrage or one-way freight. Anytime you have an additional cost related to a rail car, we potentially have an application with our rail car storage.
Okay. And on the other business, who is there your customer?
So with the rail car repairs, that it could be, again, anybody that is managing repairs of their cars. For the stabilized road rock, that would be counties, states, anybody that has a gravel road. Our process turns that road into kind of half between a hard surface road like asphalt from a gravel road, and it significantly reduces the maintenance costs.
What I really like on this story, basically, you're coming from the industry and then you're developing a solution for the industry, and that's something which I think it's a really great topic. Can you share about more details about the EOSS?
The COVID-19 pandemic was a massive stress test for business worldwide. For us at Pattison, it became an opportunity to innovate. We discovered a critical industry inefficiency. Shippers typically optimize railcar numbers only 20% of the time that they have the right number of cars. So we developed an Empty Onsite Storage Solution, EOSS, a revolutionary logistics management system. Our system integrates 3 key innovations: advanced infrastructure design, which is lightweight, non-connected tracks, minimal site preparation requirements, flexible installation options for various property configurations, revolutionary transport technology, a patented semi-trailer technology capable of handling 50, 60, and soon 67 plus foot cars, enhanced maneuverability and efficiency. And actually what we can do is store cars in areas where other processes, there's no way to put cars there. Expert operational support, dedicated professional team, comprehensive maintenance programs, and specialized loading and operations management. The system's effectiveness has been thoroughly validated at our facilities at Clayton, Iowa, and Prairie du Chien, where we've developed over 1,400 car spots and successfully cycled more than 4,000 cars. In a significant advancement, Pattison has enhanced the system by transitioning to stand technology, replacing the traditional skeleton tracks. This innovation represents a substantial reduction in capital expenditure requirements for clients while maintaining operational excellence. It's like having a magic wand for all of your rail logistic challenges.
So thanks, Kyle, for this detailed explanation. If you visit the homepage and you can watch their video, and you can see an empty railcar is loaded with a cable pull on a trailer, and then the truck transports this trailer to any place. And the railcar will then be unloaded to another track. And in the video, there is a couple of simple tracks next to each other where the empty railcars are lined up. And that looks really simple, but I have to say also very elegant.
I will just complement. So again, just one thing I wanted to say again is it's not just an elegant and beautiful idea that flourished in somebody else's mind. It was developed to answer a situation and a roadblock, an issue that Pattison was facing. As Kyle mentioned, when there was a downtime and reduction in demand, they end up with a bunch of rail cars. So they were penalized multiple times. They had to pay demurrage, they had to pay offsite storage, and they didn't know what to do. So they developed this solution. And why? Why? Because they had the space available. They had some land at their facility that was unusable traditionally for track because you don't have the curvature or you don't have the length. So this is piece of land where you cannot build a traditional track normally. So this is when they come up with the idea of the skeleton track, because now you can put your track as soon as your ground is leveled. Yeah, exactly. You can put the track, so it enables you to use your land. And then with these special trailers, they can load and unload. So I need to emphasize again, it's only for empty cars because loaded cars are too heavy, but they can load and unload from and to this track. So basically they receive the rail car from the railroad, they move them to this storage track, and whenever they need to load those cars, they take those rail cars, those empty rail cars, they put them on a trailer, and the trailer bring them to the loaded track where they load with their product, which is for Pattison, frac sand and aggregates. And then once they're loaded, they just continue and go to the traditional way, like on the railroad, and to the customer. Now, to your point, the idea is to do that on site. However, there is an opportunity if you have an off-site. So for example, Pattison has a transload facility few miles away in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, and they have also stored some rail car there. So if you have a piece of land that is not necessarily at your main facility, you can develop the storage solution there, and then you have the same concept, the trailer moving the car in and out.
Can you just give us like a number? Because like I think to load and unload a trailer with a truck costs you like also kind of a little fortune maybe. So the question where like how much is like one movement, and basically what is like the threshold when it makes sense really to think about it? If a parking duration is more than 2 months, or what is your experience?
Traditionally, when you have to store your rail car off-site, you have few costs. The first one is, it might be the demurrage. Like your rail car arrives and you cannot take them directly, or detention, it might be called in Europe, the railroad charge you. So that might be the first cost. Sometime, if you know in advance that the rail car cannot be taken at your facility, you need to divert. And some railroad, they charge you the diversion even for empty rail cars. So that might be the first two costs. Then, when you have to move the rail car to an off-site storage, you usually pay an empty revenue move to the railroad. Then usually you have some switching fees to the short line or to the companies that is storing your rail cars. And on top of that, you have a daily storage fees. So all of that depends on, the distance, depends on the company you're dealing with, and depends also on the type of railcar and the type of product you have. So for example, if you have an empty hazardous residue car, then you will pay more than if you are storing just an empty cement or frac sand car, because it's dangerous. So those are all the costs. And Pattison, the way they work is they usually charge per hour. So it depends on the efficiency of the operation for the customer. Usually, if the railcar do not have to move too far away, it takes 15 to 20 minutes to load into the trailer, bring the car to the storage track or stand, and to unload. So in an hour, I'd like to say we can usually load and unload 3 cars. And as I say, after that, it's a charge per hour. So the charge per se of the railcar move is a little bit below $500, but then there is also a transit time, like a travel time, if we need to go to the site. So depending how far it is, you might have travel time for the crew to drive from Pattison to the facility. Right now, the trailers are in Clayton, Iowa. The goal is also, as we grow, to position trailers strategically in regional hub, so we are closer to the customer and we reduce the travel time.
Depending on various factors, but like you can count like between $500 and $800 for one movement of a wagon, roughly.
Maybe a little bit more, because again, US is a very large country. So the
make
travel
it easy,
time,
$1,000 average, like if it's not that far away.
We can say that if it's not too far away. It depends really. And then again, it depends on the efficiency. So if we can load and unload very quickly, and as I say, Pattison, for them, it takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes per car, then you can also have, a lower cost.
And how many cars, did I get it right, like 4,000 rail cars you already stored?
Yes.
To explain it another way or a little bit differently, our big picture goal is to have trailers positioned all over. If the trailer is within, 2 to 4 hours of you, the economics should work easily, where it's, given most circumstances, you'll save some significant money. That's our goal. And your costs that you're comparing to are your empty car move or your demurrage. And the other thing is having cars available when you need them. If you have problems with switching, you have to move them too far away, you can have problems with not getting the cars when you need them.
Yeah. So in addition, just also to be clear, because I know you want a clear answer, and I apologize, I did not. So usually it works for customers that are not directly served by a short line. If you are served by a short line and you can store your railcar on a short line, this is where the economics might not work. We have to see. But if a customer needs to pay an empty move and then needs to pay, as I say, all the other fees and the daily storage, usually within 15 to 30 days, you should have a lower cost by using the EOSS.
As your customer, like you said, also the building industry. So basically, if the economy goes down, the business of Pattison, of the offsite storage, goes up.
Correct.
Okay, that's also sounds like really.
Or if the congestion on the railroad is such, we have seen that a few years ago, where the rail car do not move as they are supposed to, and so then they bunch and they arrive when they're not supposed to, and then it becomes a big mess. And sometimes people lease more cars just to face that. So yes.
Yeah. Also back here in Europe, we have more or less the same picture. You pay also, depending on the infrastructure manager, but between, per wagon per day, like between 2 and 6 or 7 euro. But it's also very cost intensive to ship the empty wagon to a specific track, the empty track, and to shunt it out again. And I think that's the very, very expensive topic. Yeah.
One last point, and Kyle mentioned that, so I just want to mention it again. One thing that also brings value with this solution is because you store your rail cars on site, you have them when you need them. When you store off site and you need them, you need to tell, the railroad and the company you use for storage that you need the car. So then they prepare the car, then the railroad take them and bring them to you. It will take probably at least a week, maybe 2 weeks. With this solution, when you need them, you can have them very fast. It's just a question of dispatching the trailer and then you have them. It's so efficient, just to give you an idea, that Pattison used to work 7 days a week when they did not have this solution to load their rail cars. And now, because they have streamlined their operation, everything moved way more fluidly, way more faster on site. They only need 5 days to load the equivalent of what they were doing with 7 days. Because they don't spend so much time moving the rail cars or having to wait the railroad to move the rail car, they can move the empties themselves.
Just wanted to ask, like, if this concept is scalable, but scalable means you need more land, you need more skeleton tracks and more trailers and truck drivers and trucks, right? That's the ingredients what you basically need.
Absolutely. Our vision extends beyond the current operations. We're planning to develop regional hubs where we can park trailers and deploy local crews, enabling faster and more cost-effective customer service, likely within a 4-hour radius. The beauty of our EOSS solution is it's incredibly adaptable. Whether a business faces temporary demand spike or requires long-term storage, our system scales effortlessly to meet evolving needs, and you can store cars where most people wouldn't expect you to be able to store cars. And if you can drive a semi over the ground, you can park a car there.
And so just to answer your question, Sebastian and Carl mentioned that, but yes, we need more land, but the concept is using the customer land. So as long as they have land at their facility, this will be the land we'll use. And again, normally we'll turn unusable land for traditional track into storage.
If you're just thinking about Europe, I can imagine that also in the US, it might be a challenge, because if you put like a rail car from the size on top of a trailer, then you exceed probably a critical height of the truck. So basically, do you need a specific infrastructure road to go there? Because I can imagine with traffic lights, with tunnels or whatever, there is a certain limitation in height.
As far as transporting the cars on the road, that can get complicated. Our trailers, and the height is the main problem. Our trailers 3 foot 1 inch tall, and we can haul loads up to 14 feet 4 inches without an escort, up to 16 foot easily. Tank cars can reach a height of 18.9 feet, which is possible if high lines are correctly positioned or where they're supposed to be at 19 feet. The real challenge navigating each state's unique permit regulations. Every state has different rules and review processes, and it just takes a little bit more time. And if the high lines aren't a problem, it's possible. We're moving cars daily on the roads now at Clayton and Prairie du Chien, and there's a minor permit process and no high line problems.
And it's a little bit similar to Germany, where they have lenders. I don't know how it is in Austria, but in US, everything is managed at the state level, sometimes even at the county. So we need to apply for permit when we move a rail car, the trailer with a rail car over the road. So just to be clear, if we move the trailer only within the vicinity of the plant, of the facility, there is no need to ask anything. Then it will just depend on how they build the plant, and hopefully it's high enough so we can go through, I don't know, if they have electrical line or things like that. If you go over the road, this is when you need to do a route, and then we check with the states, the different states, which road we can take. So it is not different than any dimensional move, when they move big generators or wind turbine, all these things. You just apply, you just give the height, the width, the length, and the weight, and then they tell you where you can go and cannot go. So just to give you an example, a few weeks ago, we were at a rail conference, and we brought the trailer with an empty rail car. So it was a smaller one, it was a gondola, from Iowa to Illinois. It was roughly a 5.5 hour drive. We had to go through 3 states. So we applied for permit, and maybe we didn't take the shorter route, but we made it work. And this is when we have to work with the authorities, and we just need to check before. So depend on the height of the electric line, depend on the bridges of that, but usually we can do it. And as Kyle mentioned, the only rail car that needs to be reviewed more carefully are the tank cars, because those tank cars are taller or higher than the rest.
Okay, just for 1 minute, putting into context for the audience from Europe, like what Kyle mentioned, like the maximum 18 feet, that's roughly 5 meters 40. And like in Europe, the standard max, it's like 4 meters, or like in feet, it's roughly 13 meters. Yeah. But yeah, I just have in mind like to transport a big wind turbine through the city or something like, but as you already transported more than 4,000 rail cars, it seems to be not that complicated, at least.
Correct.
Yeah, really great. And you're talking about Iowa, and you, Kyle, you just told me, which I really like the story, that basically your company like is a customer of the Iowa Interstate of Ida's Pattison Railroad. So that's also a very nice connection between the podcast guest, I have to say, at this stage. Yeah, and Kyle, what are the next step planned in your company? Is there anything like in the pipeline?
Our primary focus is selling our EOSS solution to external companies. By sharing this innovation, we'll demonstrate the immense value we can provide to the industry. It's not just about selling a service, it's about transforming rail logistics management. We're always looking for new items, and we're developing that, our stabilized road rock, and those are the railcar repairs, which that isn't anything new, but that's what we're working on at this time.
As Kyle mentioned, so they're very established in the frac sand business, in the aggregate business. Of course, they're always trying to innovate with those products. As Kyle mentioned, with a different one, they have a release recently. And then on the railcar services, the goal also, and we'll talk, I think, a little bit after, it's to bring the awareness to people so they know that this solution exists. And also we try to explain to them that even if, like any product or service, it might not fit everyone's needs, at least it was developed by a shipper, a customer, Pattison, that faced challenges, and it worked so great for them that they decided to bring that to the market, to say, hey, listen, it has brought value for our business. Maybe it can for yours. So let's discuss, let's explore together, and let's see if we can partner. And so that's also one of the big steps. It's to bring the awareness to the industry, because some people just don't know that this type of solution exists.
That's for me, like when you contact me the first time, the beauty of the whole story, it's basically that the shipper is developing their own solution, and the solution is so good that it might be also fitting to other customer industries. Yeah. And to be honest, like since we met, I already am thinking like how we can do that in Europe, which truck, which trailer we need, where we can have some tracks, and what is a logical hub. I think that's a new way of shifting from road to rail or from rail to road.
Correct.
Yes.
Cool. And let us speak also a little bit general about the US market and about the ecosystem of rail. So Liès, what do you think are the predominant issues in the rail ecosystem, especially in freight transport in the US?
I think we touch on that a little bit. The problem, the rail industry really struggles with innovation inertia. So every time we have new ideas, it's usually pretty slow to adopt those new ideas. And, we also have difficulties to anticipate the customer needs. So that's why you have seen recently also a lot of shippers shifting their logistic from rail to truck. Because truck also has issue, but at least they have adopted technology. They are more reliable, and And we'll talk a little bit about that after. It's the communication also. You have access to that. So many railroads operate with a legacy mindset, believing in captive market. We have this issue in US, which is maybe more also present than what you can have in Europe. A lot of customers are captive. They are only served by one railroad. Sometimes they have reciprocal switching, so all the railroad can access, but really it's limited. So it does not push for innovation, for really making sure that you provide the best service for your customer. And right now, we're still discussing basic technological integration like GPS tracking for the railcar. I don't know if you can believe it.
It was back in the 90s, right? So the cutting edge.
And we still, in your rail, in your vehicle, or even in some trucks, like it has been for decades. But with the rail car, believe it or not, we still don't have that. Like some rail cars have, but not all the fleets in North America. And so very behind. And I think we need to change this mindset. I'm also hopeful that there is a new generation coming up, or people coming from other industry that help changing that mindset.
Just let me jump into a little bit, because I just have the feeling maybe the success of the rail freight in the US, it's more or less also are not hindering but slowing down the innovation, because in comparison to Europe, in the US, the most class 1 railroads earning quite a good money, and they are very profitable. Yeah, so basically, even in Europe, we have even not the high profitability, but also the same pattern that for the whole innovation topic, we are really, really slow. And that brings me to the next question, do you see a potential risk of not changes the ecosystem of rail?
Yeah, I think the risk is already evident. As I say, the rail sector has been steadily losing market share to trucking for years. And it's not me saying that. It's, you can hear even the last STB hearings in September 2024. A lot of people mention that. And so I think if the railroad the railroads do not deliver genuine value to their customer, the future will become increasingly precarious. So thankfully, also, we still have what is called the class 2 and the class 3, or the short line, that are more customer-oriented, that helps mitigate some of those challenges. So you mentioned the Iowa Interstate with Kyle, but you have plethora of smaller railroad, and they have to be customer-focused because they have no choice. If they do not, they won't get any business, and they will be out very soon. The class 1 railroad, it's a different story. As you mentioned, sometimes they are more in a monopoly or duopoly situation, and they can play on price too. If volume goes down, this is what we have seen. They increase the price for each freight movement, so the revenue are still there. So I think we really need to go back to the basic, which is when you have a business, the main thing that matters is your customer. If you don't listen to your customer, if you don't provide value to them, they will leave. So with the railroad, it's a little bit more difficult because some people cannot change, like that. For example, the coal industry, they cannot decide to track everything. The volume are so big, the distance are so large that you cannot shift that from one day to the other. But I guarantee you that people will start thinking, what are my alternatives? And if they can do it, they will do it, even if it costs them a little bit more.
Okay, so basically what you're saying, the innovation drivers are more the short liners or the class 2 rather than the class 1 railroads?
Yes, and more than innovation, the respect and listening of your customer. Like what is going on? And to every business, sometimes even with the EOSS, we have an idea and then you serve a customer and the customer say, well, I would like this or I would like that. And then you adjust your product or your service to fit their needs. And this is exactly what it is. Like some customers, they require different services in a railroad or in a railway. And so you need to adjust.
What changes do you anticipate for your business?
I don't think anybody has a good understanding of what's going to happen in the next 4 years. I think I'm an optimist. I think it's going to be better. And you can look at the news, and they're already coming up with a lot of things and accomplish more than anybody expected. We're expecting increases in sand demand for producing oil and gas, more with aggregates. On the aggregates, actually, there's been a significant amount of money that Biden allocated for the first 4 years that hasn't been spent yet from talking to state officials. Also, the markets are going to shift, and it'll be interesting to see how the world changes and adapts to the United States putting itself as a priority, the government, the people as a priority, as compared to politics. An interesting phrase or statement I heard Bill Clinton say here a month ago was politics aren't going to be legal anymore, which is an interesting statement. And that will, I think that says a lot. And you're seeing that in the news since Trump has been elected. And I think that's going to make some quantum changes. And I'm excited. And really, I think the people of the United States are excited and more supportive than what they were at the start. So the question is how quickly things will change. And I'm cautiously optimistic about potential market dynamics and looking forward to it. On our side, the sand business is, in the last month has been gradually getting better. Whether that's just the market or Trump is hard to say, but things are starting to appear to get somewhat better.
And do you think also that like more investments in infrastructure, because I can imagine that that's basically your business, that more roads are constructed or rebuilt is planned?
That is the cautiously optimistic. There's a significant amount of money that Biden allocated that hasn't been spent yet, and that's part of it. The other is, if you listen to Trump, he spoke of convincing a lot of people to start the reinvestment or additional investments in the United States. Right now, in many areas, rail transportation or things are slower. And really, if you look at the business around us, some are not doing so well. Some are pretty worried. Some are excited. And then, I mean, those that are tied to items where the government is subsidizing the economics, those need to be a little bit concerned. Subsidizing the development of technology isn't a problem, but we need to listen to capitalism and follow capitalism. And with that, that's one of the things why the United States is better than any other country, along with the massive infrastructure system that the United States has to move things around. Not more so than all countries, but many.
Looking for to the vision by 2050. So, Liès, how you would see the railway world in the US in 2050?
It might be a little bit trivial, but I will say automated, fast, and reliable. So I think the technology will transform the transportation, again, making the rail more efficient, responsive, and integrated than before. It's interesting because first country in the world, but in some aspects, we are very behind, especially when you look with other countries. So I think there will be massive investment, also, as Kyle mentioned. Now, what might be different, it might not be just public funding. It might be more private funding, especially through tax deduction. But there will be, for sure, an investment, and hopefully all that will make the infrastructure, especially rail, way better and advanced and, as I said, reliable, automated. This is what I hope, at least.
And maybe we see more on-site storage globally.
I hope so. Knock on wood.
Say an interesting comment or observation at a recent Mars convention. I heard a guy speak of that the 36% of the U.S. economy is the U.S. government. And that's a scary percentage. And actually, I think that percentage will be going down with Trump and
Elon, to have it again in the podcast.
Yes, it's exciting. I mean, and actually, Ian, he's looking out after himself. Ian is, if the United States does well, he will do well also. And if the United States doesn't do well, he won't do well. So his time is best spent with all what he owns is helping the United States get and go in the right direction. So he's working for himself, even though it's not obvious.
Well, he just won a SpaceX just won a big contract. And apparently they are waiting for the Hummer Cybertruck to maybe win a contract with the US government. So yes, everything is tight. It's more complex than what we can see sometimes.
Yes.
Once again, it was really great to listen to a really simple and elegant story which solves problem, and I think that's the spirit also of RailUp. So thank you very much being my guest, Kyle and Liès, and greetings to the US.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
What is the contribution to drive climate change?
Transportation, especially in the US, is a significant carbon emission source. And at our modest level, the EOSS solution reduces the need for constant empty railcar transportation, representing a more sustainable, greener approach to logistics. So us, at least as I said, with this solution, another effect or positive outcome is the reduction on train movement and less emission.
The ball is in your court. What is the next step to drive change?
Effective customer communication. We need to listen intently to significant problem without existing solution, and then we need to innovate to address them. And once we do that, we need to make sure that we convince people and we onboard them, and so then they can adopt those new solutions.
Which superhero do we need to avoid the climate disaster?
I think we are each our own superhero. We cannot wait for others to act. We must focus on what we control, which is us. And for that, I think we need to be conservative. We need to avoid waste. We need to learn how to respect the nature, because I think we do not destroy something we love or we appreciate.
What's the takeaway from this episode?
My key takeaway is that the best driver for innovation often comes from solving your own problems within the business rather than focusing on selling a product from the start. It was encouraging to see how a traditional industry can be filled with so many innovative ideas developed over decades. What I really appreciate is how Pattison Offsite Storage Solution is both simple and elegant, with the potential to address a significant challenge in the rail ecosystem. While it's currently applied in the US, the concept clearly has a global relevance. I also found it fascinating how the collaboration between an experienced business owner and a young consultant could lead to such a straightforward yet impactful innovation. This shows that not all innovations rely on AI and cutting-edge technologies. Sometimes the most effective solutions are simple and practical. And that's the spirit of RailUp, to shape the ecosystem into better.
This podcast connects innovators and leaders worldwide to shape the future ecosystem of rail. Rail Up by Sebastian Sperker.